Welcome to Lesson 9, Removing Backgrounds to Create Layered Compositions. In this lesson, you'll learn how to combine images and will be introduced to several methods to help you remove backgrounds from images. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm in Adobe Bridge and I'm selecting PS0901 and I'm holding down my Shift key, and I'm also going to select PS0903. And I'm going to open up all three of these images. And I'm going over to the 09 image and I'm just going to click on the file size, and I can see that this image is 1,000 pixels wide. Now I'm also going up to the 03 image and I'm checking the width of this file, and I can see that, whoa, the doghouse is much bigger than the landscape. So I want to adjust this size before I even combine those images together. I'm selecting image size, and you see the new window appears that's being used for image size. I'm selecting pixels instead of inches, and I'm typing in the value of 700 because I want it to be smaller than the 1,000 pixel landscape. And so I'm estimating about the size I want and clicking OK. Now I'm taking the Move tool and I'm going to click and drag the doghouse over to the tab that says 0901, and then I'm dropping that doghouse in. Now you can see that there's a little bit of an issue here, and that is the fact that there's a background on this doghouse and I can't see the rest of the image beyond it. I'm going to fix that by selecting the pen tool, zooming in a little bit. So I'm going to the zoom tool and making sure scrubby zoom is turned off because I want to click and drag with the zoom tool so I can select a marquee area, take my pen tool, and I'm just going to quickly go around and create a pen path. Now I'm not going to be exactly perfect here because I don't think you want to sit here the whole time and watch me in a video do this pen path. So I'm going to quickly just skip up to the top. We're not going to catch all those tiles. That's okay, as long as you get the point of what I'm doing. Go down to the bottom. And of course, I could sit here and do every little detail in the bottom, but we're going to make this fast because it's all about the technique, right? So I have the pen path active, and I'm pulling out my layers panel so you can see this a little better. And I'm holding down the control key because when you hold down the control key on a Windows system, when you click on Add a Layer Mask, it actually creates a vector mask. This would be the command key on the Mac. But you'll see that a mask is instantly created from my vector path. And of course, I can take the direct selection tool and I can edit this if I want. Maybe I want to pull that down. Oops, let me undo that. And I'm going to click off, and then I'm going to click and drag to select only one of those points. And you can see I can continually adjust this mask. Or I can hold down my Shift key and click on that mask to go back to the way it used to look. Shift click again to undo that. Now I'll just show you another easy method that's maybe not as precise, but some people love to see this. I can also take this image, which is a background. I can take the eraser tool and hold down on it, select Magic Eraser, make sure I've got a tolerance set up that works well for this. So in other words, when I click on the white area back here, if I click with a tolerance of 32, it is going to leak into the other white areas. I need to say, take a smaller range, maybe a 10. So I'm going to undo by pressing Control Z or going under Edit Step Backwards. I'm going to try this again, and you'll see that I got a much better result. Now I typically like to use the pen tool for something as precise as this because you also would have to go down into the drop shadow as well. And you do get a much more precise selection with the pen tool, but if you're doing a quick selection and you're in a hurry, nothing beats that Magic Eraser tool. So I'm going back to this image again. This time I'm going to put the dog in here. So I'm taking my Move tool and again dragging it up to the tab and dropping him down. He's a little bit big here. In this case, I'm just going to Control T or Command T the dog a bit, and I'll just make him small enough that you can see him on the screen for what we're doing, and click on the Commit button. Okay, he might be a little bit more difficult to make a selection out of, but not really, because you have the Refine Edge feature that's going to help you with this. I'm using the quick selection tool, making a quick selection of the dog, and then I'm going up to refine edge. I'm selecting on black because I want to be able to see where I missed the hairs. Now in this case, since the dog is furry all over, I might be able to turn on Smart Radius and then set a radius, and the radius is looked at all around the selected area. You wouldn't turn this on if you just had somebody who's hairy on the top of their head because it's going to refine the radius of the entire object. But something like a dog where he's furry all over, this might work very well. You can even go in and select the Refine Radius tool and touch it up a little bit more in some of the areas that go in a little bit deeper. Now, if I want to see what I've done, I can come up here and choose black on white to see that beautiful mask that was created, or I can select on layers to see how it is applied to the images below. I'm pretty happy with that. And instead of leaving it as a selection and having the white come back, I'm going to select Layer Mask and click OK. And now I have a mask that's automatically created. I can Option or Alt click on that to see that mask and even edit it if I want. Let's do one more thing. I'm going to go ahead, back to Bridge. I'm going to open up this tennis ball. I'm taking the Move tool, dragging it up to the tab and dropping it down, and it's really big. In this case, I am going to go ahead and just quickly use the Magic Eraser tool. I'm going to make this a little smaller by pressing Control T or Command T if you're on the Mac. Slide it down. Take my Move tool and slide it into his mouth, but it doesn't really look like it's in his mouth right now. So how are we going to address the fact that the tennis ball is on top of his nose? I'm going to duplicate this dog layer because I want to sandwich the tennis ball in the mouth, but in this particular selection, I'm only going to include the top of his nose. So I'm getting rid of the existing layer mask. I'm turning off the tennis ball. I'm going to zoom in a bit. Use the lasso tool or whatever tool you feel comfortable with to make a really quick selection of this area here. I don't have to worry about the top at all. Nobody's going to see it. But this bottom has a little bit of fur that I want to work with. So I'm going into Refine Edge, making it really small, and then just painting some of the edges to get that look of fur. I don't want to go too far in. I'm going to turn this into a layer mask and click OK. So what do I have here? If I Option click on that eyeball or Alt click, you'll see I just have the nose. Needs a little bit more work here. You can see the mask here. I'm just going to take my paintbrush and make this paintbrush a little smaller, paint with black to clean that up. Excellent. So now we have a better selection of just the nose. I'm Option clicking on the visibility to turn everything back on. I'm turning on the tennis ball. I'm sliding it down between, and now you can see it looks like it's setting in his mouth. And of course, this is when you can take the time to go in and apply shadows. You can either do it manually or with some automatic features. So for instance, with the ball selected, I might come in here and select Drop Shadow. And I'll make a really light drop shadow, maybe something that's 50%. I want it straight down. So I'm also going to make sure it's at 90 degrees. Or close. I can type that in. A distance of 5 and a size of 15. So now you can see it blends in a little bit better. And I can click on OK. If I want to put a shadow under the mouth, I can do something simple like create a new blank layer, take my brush, select a black, so I'm pressing D, make it a really light opacity, maybe a 20%. Make sure it's really soft, either by using the brush panel or by pressing Shift left bracket to make a smaller, softer brush. I'm going to increase this a little bit. And you'll see that now with a really light brush, I can come in here and just kind of paint the shadow that I want and control it. The nice thing about it being on a separate layer is that you can also change the opacity of that entire layer, or you can just turn it off or erase it and start over again. So in this lesson, you found some ways to quickly remove the background of images so that you can put them together in a composite. This has been Jennifer Smith for Digital Classroom.